Then let's. So I call the meeting to order. And Mary, did you get attendance? Did everybody?
I did. As they're signing in, I took attendance.
You did? Okay.
Just like school.
What's that?
Just like school.
Just. That's only fitting. All right, then I would open it up to item 2, budget reviews for Hampshire Regional High School. Don't know who's going to take charge, but whoever is, welcome. And welcome to you all.
Thank you. Kristen, do you want to start?
I think Michael's going to give a little intro.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, I'll do, based on the feedback the school committee received at its 2 budget meetings, its hearing and it's the one before that, we thought we would speak to a direct question that came up multiple times first. And so I was just prepared to say a little bit about that before you might get into the weeds a little bit. So, and I sent, I don't know how far and wide it got dispersed, but I had a short memo. We could even share it on the screen if you wanted to. But what we wanted to say is, as always, the school system is very, tries to be attentive to trying to keep town assessments low as they can. And it's also, a year of responding to the pandemic, which has thrown a lot of wrenches into things, both operationally and looking forward in terms of trying to respond to the learning loss that students have had for the last year. So there's a lot of moving pieces to the budget. And the overall increase in expenditures is 3.92%. It's over $500,000. But in telling the story about the expenditures, we wanted you to know that over 40% of that is to be able to meet some significant out-of-district special ed costs for kids that are coming to the middle high school. So that's one big chunk of that increase. A second big chunk is $94,000, almost $95,000 for professional development that we think is really going to be important throughout this summer so that faculty can get a sense of what students did accomplish this year. They can share with each other the curriculum that was covered and was not covered, and then they can make adjustments for the fall, significant adjustments to how they'll try and pick up the pieces. And that's really not a common thing for us to want to do in the summer. It would always be great to have time for professional development in the summer, but we really feel like it's imperative this year. And then the third thing is we have about $20,000 more than typical that we want to spend directly on students this summer. We have a lot more students than usual that are struggling to pass their courses. And this isn't really the year where you want to hold somebody back a year and make an example out of them for stuff that was largely out of their control. So we have a lot more of summer reteaching and credit recovery going on. So that leaves everything else is an increase of $220,000. And those are not the pandemic related things. Those are increasing the amount of continuing to support one-to-one computers for each of our students. We're increasing the preventive maintenance that we want to have in place, particularly for the HVAC system, because we've learned that there's a high cost to not keeping up with maintenance. And then the other costs are the typical things like salary, cost of living increases. So that's where the expenditures are. And then on the revenue side, the total assessments across all the towns, it's only a 0.9% increase. And the reason we're able to do that is because we want to spend more than usual from our excess and deficiency account. But we're also careful. We feel that this is a sustainable amount to take out because the balance that we'll have, we project to have, is over $400,000, which is more than the beginning year balances going back to FY18. So that seems to be a prudent thing to do. And then similarly, with the school choice revolving account, we plan to spend an addition $200,000 more than last year from that account. But again, we still plan on having more as a balance at the beginning of FY23 than we do now. So we feel like those expenditures from some of our reserves to meet a highly unusual year work together fairly well and should not put us in a risky place financially in the years beyond FY22. So that's about all I'm good for, unless you want to talk about ESSER 2 funds and things like that. The rest of the details, I think, can come to Kristen and Bobby's attention. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
Any questions, anybody, before we move on?
No,
Okay. I'm sorry, Rachel, did you say something?
I said no, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay. Who's up next?
I can go. So my name's Kristen Smitty. I'm the principal at Hampshire Regional, for those who don't know me. Thanks for having us tonight.
Hi, Chris.
So I am prepared to talk a little more in detail about the programmatic costs if there are specific questions, but Michael did a nice job of covering the priorities that we have coming into this next year, particularly the ones that are pandemic related and the expenses that we have. Bobby can talk a bit about the overall assessment number to Southampton, but just in a nutshell, it's a 1.13% increase for the town, or a $60,136 increase for the town in general. And then that would be offset by ESSER 2 if that's how the town decides to use those funds. And so instead of going through details that you may or may not want to know, I'm happy to take questions or go into more detail if you would like.
Any specific questions, or before we get into it?
I do have a specific.
Yes, Mary.
The projected student enrollment, what is that figure for the coming fiscal year?
Yeah, so the enrollment is hard to predict right now. So we anticipated having about 720 students at Hampshire this year, and we ended up with 693 because of the pandemic and students exercising their right to homeschool. We typically have across the district about 20 to 25 students who homeschool, and this year we had 83. And so that just kind of speaks to what families are deciding to do in terms of what's best for their health and their education. So it's really, really hard to predict what's going to happen next year. I think for town numbers, they'll take is it the October or the March numbers, Bobby or Michael?
October.
Okay, so they'll take the numbers from this October to apply to next year. And I think that districts are held harmless for any decrease. And so we're not going to get less state aid, but it's kind of like this long, complicated answer that's hard to predict at this time, Mary.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. So,
Yep.
go ahead. I was just gonna say, I don't know, do you want to go through the line item budget? I mean, I think you all got copies of that. What would you like to see for the next steps?
I've identified some items that I was curious about, but I don't want to get you off track. If you want to do your thing, so to speak, and then we can come back to it, whatever your pleasure is.
Well, it certainly depends. We can go page by page if you want on the budget and then ask questions as we go. Do you all have that, or does it need to be shared?
This is the one you're talking about, right?
Correct.
Okay. Sure. Why don't we go by page? Yeah, one page at a time.
Okay, so the first page is the central office costs. And one of the things that we did this year, as a good faith effort in the shared cost agreement that the school committee members are working on, is to put the insurance benefits for central office and the travel benefits for central office into each of the elementary and the high school budget, rather than housing them just within the Hampshire regional budget. So on the first page, you'll see, excuse me, on line, well, I don't have my lines on mine. We have, under the admin clerical salary, which is the second box down, there's an increase of $17,083.
Yep.
A combination of the regular contractual increases, the percentage increase for Southampton, and then there is an addition of a administrative assistant that will work to help the business office as well as the superintendent himself. So currently we have 3 business people. We have a person that does the accounts payable, accounts receivable for the 2 regional schools. We have 1 person who does the payroll for the 2 regional schools, and then we have 1 person who does all of that for the 3 municipal schools. And then we also, all those people also serve as administrative assistants to do mail, phones, support the superintendent and all the other administrators within the office. So it's something that we've been planning for several years. It's something that's been in our audit report to increase some help for the business office. And so this is why we decided to put that in this year. Then you'll also see, if you go to the health coordinator line, that has an increase of $5,132. That is not a salary increase. What it is that typically we spent $25,000 towards her salary in Medicaid funds, and the Medicaid funds have changed over the past few years in what is allowable expenses and what not, so we're not getting the money that we were once seeing. So that's why that increased.
Okay.
The same with, you'll see then on the, 1, 2, 3, I'm not sure where that one is. On the administrative business manager line, you'll see there's a decrease. And that decrease is due to the fact that there used to be a $25,000 consultant fee in the line. And that's going to be part of what we did with the admin clerical salary there that we're hiring. Other duties with the other 3 people will be taken on by that administrative assistant, and the other 3 will absorb the rest of that work. So that's why you see that big decrease there.
Yep.
And then you'll see the admin travel business manager, $3,000 is out of there. That went down to the new spot where you see office insurance benefits and office contractual travel. That was all taken out due to this new agreement. And then the office insurance benefits, I've been so good about putting the lines on everything, and now I have a copy without lines and numbers. So,
We could share
that's
on the screen, but
I'm
not
okay
sure.
if everybody's following, all right?
Okay.
Yeah, okay. All right, so office insurance benefits, that's as I talked about earlier, that is the insurance benefits for all of central office people, and then the travel is the travel for all central office people. So the increase for central office is atypical, $69,558, of which $59,643 is the new cost share agreement, putting that into the each individual school rather than just Hampshire Regional, and that's $59,643. So does anybody have any questions on that page? No?
Bobby, can I just throw out, because this is the one community where I'd want to share this, the shift in those costs actually works to the net advantage of Southampton by reducing their total assessments by $3,000. So that's a good thing for Southampton.
Okay.
Okay. All right, and on page 2, the first section is just contractual increases.
Bobby, it looked like Francine might have had a question. Did you? You're muted though, Francine.
I did. I couldn't unmute myself fast enough. Now, this page represents just the costs of these items to Southampton or in total, because they're significantly lower than I remember them being in the past.
This is the entire Hampshire regional budget.
Okay. So that's a huge difference in the central office expenditures.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a question. Bobby,
Okay, yeah, hi, Mary.
on page 1, on the superintendent's salary, I understand that you're hosting a prospective new superintendent. The contract negotiations, certainly after a finalist selection, will be conducted. So is there an earmark for, the proposed salary increase? Because this one is showing 54,000.
Right, that's just Southampton's portion on this.
Okay, thank you.
Hampshire Regional's portion.
Sorry, Hampshire. Thank you. Just Hampshire Regional's portion. I just said that a minute ago. So it's just Hampshire Regional's portion. And there's a placeholder. It's, what I put in there in talks with the superintendent interim and others. So we're going to hope it fits within.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Page 2.
Back to page 2. The first section in instruction is simply just contractual increases with a little increase in the student software fee that goes up generally about 3% each year. And our IT director does look at it to see what she can do to keep those costs down. But we did put in a little factor for that. And then the next line, the curriculum coordinator team leaders. We have had an increase in the contractual language increased a payment for 5th class teaching. And Kristen, you can help me out here. And it was never actually budgeted for. So we've always been running in the deficit and looking at finding money for that at the end of the year. So it's just for a contractual stipend that these particular teachers get for teaching a 5th class in addition to their regular duties.
Okay.
Okay, and then on the technology contract line, the 91,435, that is to keep the one-to-one program as is.
Forgive me, what's the one-to-one program?
So when we went out with COVID, we had to scramble quickly to get all kinds of computers and get things out there for the kiddos to be able to learn from home. And so what ultimately ended up is that we're able to do technically what's called a one-to-one. So each student has their own computer.
Oh, okay.
And it's something the state is going towards anyways. They're always looking to see how many schools have a one-to-one program. So in order for us to keep it up and not have to go back and scramble again, should this ever happen, to stay with that program would be that extra cost of $91,435, which includes some some software programs that we need, like Zoom and GoGuardian, PowerSchool, etc. So it does include a little bit of that. 81,425 is for the one-to-one model, and then 10,010 is for those other softwares that we need to maintain that program as well.
Bobby, does that include some type of insurance should the computers be damaged? Or is that on a different line?
It does not. What they're doing is they're running a program where parents are paying into a fund that we're going to start, and I think Southampton did the same for the elementary school. And Kristen, correct me if I'm wrong, but so it's kind of like a self-insurance plan. We're taking in the fees, it's going into an account, and then we have a contract, I believe, with a particular vendor that will do them at sort of like a reduced price for any of the fixes. And we're going to run that for a while to see how that is running, to make sure that, you know, that will be sufficient.
Thank you.
Bobby, just a general question. What environment does the budget assume? Hybrid or virtual or both?
It assumes in session.
Back to normal,
Right.
the new normal.
Back to normal.
In person, yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah. Okay, and the next section is just contractual increases, which include step changes, column changes, and percent increases. Sped teacher salary, you see a decrease, and that's due to changes in personnel. We had some higher people on the scale that left that we had budgeted for in '21 that have since retired, and we hired at lower. And then the rest of the page is just contractual increases. So any questions other than what's been asked on page 2?
Yeah, I guess I hit one other question. As far as employees are concerned, the teachers are all unionized. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
What about non-teachers?
Paraprofessionals and high school administrative assistants are also unionized.
Okay.
The only ones not unionized are the custodians, the central office administrative assistants, and the cafeteria.
Okay. Is there any built-in salary increase for the non-unionized people?
Yes, it would be the same as the contractual increases for the unionized people.
Okay. Which was what?
Oh, I don't have it in front of me, the contract in front of me.
I mean, was it 3%, 2%?
No, it was no more than 2%.
It was
that?
0.75%.
It was low.
But there was a salary step added.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Bobby, for the special needs aides, that was an 8% increase. Is that an additional, is it also additional time, or is it, were they just trying to get them to a certain step?
No, it's just whatever they bargained in their contractual or their unionized agreement. And then they get steps, and then any differences between who we had last year compared to who we had this year in hiring. So for instance, we may have budgeted last year for a para on step 5, and that para may have left, and the hiring, because you try to hire the best person you can for the job, may have come in at step 7. That's just for example.
Okay.
So that it's not that they each got 8.31%. It's a combination of their percent increase for their contract, and then any steps that they move and changes in employment from one year to the next.
So Rachel, we do pay our paras a little bit more than what they might be able to get in surrounding districts, but that has to do a lot with the distance they have to travel to get to us. Same with our substitutes. So it's just an ongoing kind of conundrum that we deal with at the regional.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
we're at what, page 3?
Yep, page 3. The first big one is the professional development. That's the $99,388, which they spoke to earlier. That is for the professional development for 73 teachers to get them to realign the curriculum and instruction with new expectations for all, given that it's been a year like no other this past, and we still don't know what this next year will bring. So that's what that is for. It's a one-time cost that will, that is really definitely needed this year. And then the next section is, those are just all contractual agreements or contractual increases. And then on the psych professional salary, that is, again, we had a shift in personnel. So we had somebody who retired, who was at the top of the salary scale. They were at a CAGS, top step, and we hired under that. Any questions on page 3?
Bobby, you had mentioned 73 teachers for the professional development. Is there a set time? Is it for like 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
It is for 40 hours at 6.5 hours a day for 5 days. And Kristen, you might be able to more clearly define that.
It's a 5-day PD for the full day.
Thank you.
Okay, all set, Mary?
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Okay, so page 4. The first line is a contractual increase. The next line for your physician is a decrease. And what that involves is that we were able to hire a one physician for the entire district, and we got a better price. So there was some savings for Hampshire on that. So their physician that we typically have to get was decreased by $2,500. And then the next section is your transportation. Now, the van is contractual increases. We currently have 2 drivers, so they get steps and other increases, and there is a small increase for the regular transportation, which is about a 1%, and that's just the actual COLA that is in the contract that we have. And then the next large number, the 28,858, while it looks extremely large, could be over 100,000 technically. This is transportation that is needed for students that have this written into their IEP. And on top of that, there is actually another $90,000 that we would typically have to pay a contractor like Van Pool. But because we have our fleet of vans, we're able to save that money and transport those ourselves at the reduced cost. And then coaches is a contractual increase, extracurricular. That $5,000 is the increase for the musical as requested. And then custodian salary is just contractual increase. And internet supplier is, our supplier went up for the internet. We got a little bit of a bandwidth increase as we had to do for COVID, because everybody was using the bandwidth. So in order to keep everybody doing all their active Zooms and everything else, we had to increase our bandwidth a bit. So to keep that going forward rather than to go back, which we're going to continually need bandwidth anyways, that's what that increase is for.
Okay.
Any questions?
No.
Okay, so page 5. The next item is in buildings is 15,000, and that is going to be for maintenance for our HVAC system so that we can be proactive rather than try to put out fires as they come. So this would be to find the issues with our 2 running systems, one old, one new, and for our heat and airflow. And that would be maintained annually and hopefully save us costs that otherwise we would not save.
How did the upgrade work out for the system?
Kristen, I let you take that one.
Great. Paul served as our supervisor to really make sure that all of the project was done correctly, and he really dug deep to identify the issues that we had and solve issues we didn't even know we had. And so we were really, really happy with the outcome, and we're very familiar with the air exchange in every classroom, and it exceeds expectations or industry standards for education in all spaces. And so that's certainly very comforting for staff and students and families. So that was a great project. Thank you, Paul.
Yes, thank you, Paul.
Thank you. And to that point, though, we did find that there is some equipment that over time is going to need repair and replacement. That's why we're trying to address it up front. Include money in the budget each year to address those things as they come up.
Are there any new requirements coming out in the new COVID legislation or the new revenues?
Not that I've heard.
No.
I think they actually started a bit more restrictive, and now they've been doing studies to be a little less restrictive. But I'm pleased that our ventilation is able to meet the restrictions at its strictest.
Yep.
And we will forever be thankful to the towns for supporting that capital project, because if we had not had that, we would have had a very difficult time getting people into the building. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, so for
Okay,
the rest.
thank you.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Bobby.
Okay, for the rest of the page, the county retirement, that's something that we pay into each year, and that's based on their, based on their assessments that they assess out to each of the members of that. I haven't seen it go down except for this year, I have to say, in Chesterfield Goshen, it actually did. So that was nice to see. Insurance employees, you see the big difference of 121,022, and what that has to do with is the fact that we moved that into the individual elementary school budgets, along with the fact that there was no premium increase this year. The retiree health insurance went down, and that's just due to, unfortunately, people dropping off of the insurance. And then our insurance for fire and liability went up. That's been going up each year and has not been increased. We still do get credits for that, and we do everything. I have one of the girls in my office who really does a lot on this piece to keep our costs down and to receive as many premium credits as we can. She does a lot of work. That's Denise. She does a lot of work to keep that under control. As well as the workers' comp piece. And then that's it for that page, which is a total of 75,621 decrease. And then, any other questions on that page?
No, Guess not.
Okay, on the next page, page 6, you'll see the first one is $19,000 increase, and that is an increase for the summer programming, and that is, given the regression, it's recommended by the SPED director to offer 5 weeks of summer programming, and this is combined with the increased number of students who will need services as a result in this additional cost. And there's also some money that will be supported from the 240 grant to run that program.
Special ed.
Yeah, special ed 240. And then the next one, programs out of district, that is students that are coming up from elementary schools. So that's an additional cost. And then the CES tuition sped is one kiddo dropped out of that and went into a private placement other than the CES. So CES is the collaborative, which we have some students go to sometimes, but then they often change out to a different school depending. So the total increase for the special education tuition is $207,670. And then school choice and charter, those are just estimates based off of this current year's number. We don't get the final numbers. I say this every year until June. For FY21, we don't get the final numbers until the end of June. So this is my best case estimate for the, for Hampshire Regional. So that's what we'll pay. And I think it should come in somewhere around that. So that gets you down right here. You'll see the 3.92 with the increase of the 567,842. But the total budget is, and I'm just going to do the next page and then we can actually, I'll take questions. So the total budget, you have to go on to page 7. And you have to see the circuit breaker, which is 370,551, an increase of 76,850, which is anticipated in the reimbursements that we will get from circuit breaker. So our total budget is actually 15,425,888, or a 4.36% budget. But I just want to point out that the circuit breaker expense, the 370,551, is actually tied to actual out-of-district expenses. So if we had not had the circuit breaker funds, that would have been up on your out-of-district line, and that would have increased by an even greater amount. So, any questions on page 6?
So Bobby, the virtual high school is used explicitly for the special ed program?
Virtual high school, that's a combination of, kiddos going out to take virtual classes. And then there are some programs that we do with our special ed staff, like the ICE program, and there's one other.
The Macy program for our students who are. Mhm.
Yep. Yep. And I should rename that line to include that. Any other questions on page 6? Okay. And page 7. Okay, that's
We all
all.
good?
That's all I have.
All right.
So if you want to take a peek at the assessment page, which is the other budget document that Michael sent over earlier today, that kind of breaks down the revenues and the assessments, as Michael spoke about at the beginning. So you'll see at the top, the revenues are listed from FY21, the expected change and what we expect for FY22. And then the bottom part of it is the town assessments. And so the first three columns are the state minimum contribution, and then the percentage, the assessment percentage over the minimum. And then if you go all the way to the right side, you can see the increase or decrease for each town, and then the percentage increase. In Southampton, as I said, the percentage increase is 1.13%. And if you take the ESSER money and apply it to offset the assessment, then the ESSER money that Southampton is eligible for is $31,783. So your assessment would only be $28,353.
Increase. Yeah, correct. And just to say that is not necessarily set in stone yet. It's still not passed all the way through. So we have to wait to make sure that is definitely going to be the route that they're going to go. And I will be sending out an email to finance and select board committees in regards to that. I just have not quite got there yet.
Wow.
Yeah, and if any communities actually take that option, does that negatively impact your budget at all, Bobby?
No, it would just, because it's within that grant itself, it would just reduce the amount of grant funding that we have, which I'm sure if anybody here knows Kristen, she would have 503 ways to spend that. All to the good, I might add, not
Good way,
Right.
yes.
right, all to the good, not frivolously.
Wow.
There's also, I'm sure you guys saw, and I don't have that in front of me, I could probably pull it up, but the town is also getting monies from the, was it the America's Rescue Plan or Rescue Act? So I think.
Yeah, it'd be nice if they would let us know how we're eligible to spend it, however.
I did read something that it could be used, which I thought was unusual, that it could be used to offset your assessments.
Okay.
That was a quick read, and I will look that up again too to see if I can find any more information on that as well.
Yeah, because the only thing I found on it so far, and that was early, and was that they were saying that it could be used to offset any revenue losses, but I haven't seen a whole heck of a lot of detail on it yet, which drives me nuts.
Yeah, you don't usually get it until the last minute, and then they say you have 30 days to spend it, right?
Right, exactly.
So I just wanted to let you know that we do have school committee meeting at 6:30. And so there will be some of us who need to scoot in about 5 to 7 minutes.
Well, we too have a another scheduled meeting at 6:30, so we'll try and adhere to that as well. Were there any other questions from the committee, the finance committee, or any other comments from the school?
So I do want to say something about the fact that we are using some money, choice money, and we generally try to keep that to a minimum. And I know that that's something that is concerning to residents of Southampton because of the history of Norris. But it's well thought out. There is a very specific need this year. And as Michael said, that, we still have a healthy balance in there. And so this is something that we talked about a lot, but we feel like it's the best solution for this coming year. We don't intend to repeat it on a grand scale.
Thanks for letting us know that, Margaret.
What
I'm
was that?
sorry, what?
Thanks for letting us know that, Margaret.
Sure.
All right. Well, sounds as though both sides are Satisfied? So that being the case, would let you folks depart for your 6:30 meeting. And we thank you very much for taking the time to educate us. Pardon the play on words. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Ken, and everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Very good job.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right. Everybody's muted? Unmuted?
Unmuted.
Unmuted. All right.
That was good. I thought it was very full and
Yep.
they answered the questions, so.
Yep. And knew which ones would be questioned. So we didn't have to question them.
If I could just comment, I mean, I was the liaison to the school for a couple of years before, and there were years when our assessment would go up $400,000 or $500,000 in a year. So for the last 2 years, the school has really, really done everything it could to to be aware and sensitive to the impact on the towns by these assessments. And I'm very impressed with how they're managing this E&D money, their school choice money. They're putting it all to very good work, and it's really benefiting us. I've never seen it this low. So I really, and Ed and Lucy, you both know it's been $400,000 and $500,000 a year. So coming in at well below the 2.5%, tax increase that we're going to get at 1.13, and maybe even lower if they get this grant. That's great.
So is this a product of new management or just new thought processes or what, or both?
I can honestly say that this is school committee, it's a hard committee to be on, but some of the members have been on for quite some time, and they're really dedicated to being on it, and they just put their everything into it. So I think it's a lot of experience and some changes. So,
yeah, and
in my opinion,
yeah, and the times also. I think over the last several years also is
The other one,
Southampton is kind of in the last few years maybe been shocked or had one of the biggest percentage increases or dollar increases that came with the assessment, and we've pretty much been standalone as far as concerned about the Hampshire regional budget, at least since I've been here. And I think over the past couple of years, some of the other communities have gotten to the point where they really can't afford the large increases either. And I think that the Hampshire Regional District has started to recognize that and realize that it's not a bottomless funding pit, that they do have to get creative and maybe look at a couple different ways to accomplish what they would like to improve their educational environment. So yeah, I think it's a number of factors, as Lucy says.
And what was the reference to Norris School?
Yeah, that was going to be my next comment. My concern is that they've shifted some expenses out of the central office budget, because that's like half of what it used to be. It used to be over $1 million. Now it was like 500 and some change. The impact of that, we'll see yet, I guess, when we look at the Norris budget.
And then I think another whether it's question or comment, pops up is, every year, Hampshire Regional files their budget before Norris does. And there's been years that because of the size of the increase with the Hampshire Regional, it's, it's been brought up is our own elementary school district, shall we say, either penalized, or is there shortcomings from that because Hampshire Regional got a larger piece of the pie, and through the fact that it takes 2 of the 5 districts at town meeting to vote against the Hampshire regional budget to actually have it not approved, like I say, is that negatively affect Norris?
Okay. Any other thoughts? Comments? All right.
Ken,
Yeah.
you know what would be helpful for me? I don't know about the rest of you. I don't know when people are talking what their titles are or where they're from, what they're representing. So I don't know if there's some way instead of it'd be better if I just have my initials and what my title is rather than, so I know who's talking. So for instance, that Bobby Jones, who really knows a lot, I don't know what her title is.
He's the business manager.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I knew who the principal was. I got that one.
Yeah, it's Kristen Smitty.
Yeah, Kristen.
And then Michael Sullivan is the interim
Superintendent.
school superintendent.
Yep. What's his background?
He's a retired school superintendent.
Oh, right. And Margaret?
She's the chair of the Hampshire Regional School Committee, plus she is a elected Southampton member of that school committee.
Okay. Well, see, Barbara, you weren't alone.
Thank you.
All right. Then, Ed, do we have the EMD?
Don's away, but he thought he was going to be able to join us via Zoom, and I had told him 6:30, so I am just texting him now to see if he is able to sign in and join us.
Okay.
I'm going to go get something to drink.
Oh, I see him.
Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
can you hear me?
Well, there he is.
Hi, Don.
Hi, Don.
Hello, everybody.
How you doing?
Doing very well down here in Florida.
Oh, lucky you.
Well, we had some nice weather here as well.
I know you did. I wish I was there right now. I can't wait.
Yeah. Well, Mother Nature's probably got a surprise for us somewhere along the way.
Florida, I'm sure.
Well, as long as you're staying away from Miami Beach and
At Fort Lauderdale.
yeah, and the pepper spraying at the beaches to disperse the spring breakers.
I'm in Vero Beach, completely safe.
Cool.
So, how can I help you all?
Well, if you wanted to just provide us with commentary, as to the your budget request for 22,
Right.
1 and 2, and your narrative that you had there, if you want to
We'll do
give us
so.
some explanation there.
I have done this position before. It was on a completely volunteer basis. Since December, there has been a stipend. I really do feel, but I felt this way again back when I was doing it 3 years ago, that this position should be in some regard funded. Always have felt that way. But I do understand that this is probably a hard year. So that being said, things that I think are important, however, I do believe that the EMD position should have travel. You cannot expect the EMD to travel to meetings which are now going to open up. I think that they need to be reimbursed for travel. I also feel that we need to have what's called a tabletop exercise, and that is whereby we, town employees, and others are brought in, and we have an exercise regarding some kind of an emergency management scenario. I have a couple things in mind right now. The reason why that needs is that it would not be proper for me or somebody else in town to run it. Although I could, I have done them before, but I feel I would bring somebody else in from MEMA. Perhaps Bob has it from Springfield Emergency Management, or somebody actually run through the scenario. They typically take roughly up to 4 hours. We should provide snacks, coffee, beverages, things of that nature as well. Plus there'll be printing, quite a bit of printing. I would like to also upgrade our maps. We have not had our maps in town, emergency management maps, updated in a while. They're best to have them mounted on a board with a plastic covering over them so that you can write on them something. Also, I would like to see if we could have a town office for the emergency management director. The reason being this is that there's an awful lot of printing often that has to be done. You have to use a fax machine. I mean, yes, I have a home office. I've been using it, but I think it would be nice to have a town office. I had an office in the past, which I shared with the veterans agent, which actually worked out well, because right across the hallway, conference room, we often utilized. Stipend, I really feel that you might have a hard time in the years going forward if you do not provide some kind of a stipend for the EMD. So MEMA tells me, Mass Emergency Management tells me, that the Emergency Management Director is the only position required by law in the Commonwealth. I've never heard that before, but that is what they said. It's the only position, the only job in town city government that's required. So I feel to not fund that position sends a message. Do you have any questions or comments?
Don, can you, in one sentence, say what the EMD is responsible for?
The Emergency Management Director is, in essence, on call 24/7. Although I must say I've got a very, very good colleague in Ed Gibson, who truly has been nothing but supportive right since December. So thank you, Ed. I mean, truly, for all that you've done.
Oh, you're welcome.
But really, but I mean, the key thing is that you're on call 24/7. You never know when something is going to occur. Granted, you expect things to happen in the winter. You expect an ice storm, snow, you name it. Lines out, power out. But it happens year round. We have storms now year round. The wind storms are getting much, much worse. And the EMD is basically responsible to open the EOC, Emergency Operations Center, and to work with all town employees at a moment's notice. Granted, I'm away from Southampton today. First time though since the beginning of December. I have not moved, so I am back on Monday.
So if there's any kind of emergency, it goes to you first before it?
It goes to dispatch. I mean, we have a plan now And in fact, I thought it was formalized previously, but we've got a plan now solid with Eversource as one example that our Southampton emergency dispatch located in the Southampton Police Department will get all incoming calls. So Eversource is solid. I would assume, it's what I expect, is that all other agencies seeking out, requesting help, or any problems occurring, the message goes through dispatch. Obviously, police, fire, town government, emergency management director, all of us together. Finance is important as well. Not to sidetrack this, but should we ever have that tabletop exercise, finance is very, very important because you make the means and measures to pay for everything. I mean, there's really nothing as important as finance. So when this tabletop occurs, you're going to be part of it. You're going to have an invite, as an example. But the fact is, dispatch gets all of our incoming calls. Yes, the EMD is supposed to be contacted on everything. In theory.
So when the dispatcher gets the phone call, their first call after that incoming call is to you.
If it's at a level that requires notification of the EMD. I mean, generally day-to-day traffic goes to fire and police, or both. But should it rise to the level of serious emergency, it then goes to the EMD as well. I, of course, then reach out to state assets, other departments. I mean, we have mutual aid agreements with surrounding towns. I've been doing this a long time. One of the most important things for the EMD is to have connections, is to know people, it is to be on a first name basis. My predecessor, Charlie Kinnicky, and I are good friends. We go back a long 20 years. So the importance of first name basis contacts is, if that makes any sense.
Yep. So you've been doing this since last December, is that right?
Last December.
Okay. If someone were to ask you on a monthly basis how many hours you spend performing the function of an EMD, would you have
question. All right. Honestly, roughly 10 to 20 hours a week, safe bet, going over. There's an awful lot of reading, maintaining contacts, reaching out, studying. I'm credentialed. Few EMDs are in Western Massachusetts. So all of these things, I will say though, COVID has put a true block in the way I used to work. So I need to get out again and meet people in person. It's vital. But COVID has prevented that in a lot of cases. But I do maintain contacts with all the surrounding towns, Mass Emergency Management, Mass Department of Public Health, where I am retired from. Office of Emergency Preparedness, there is where I worked. So I would say roughly right now, as it stands with COVID, although things are beginning to open up, I know, I'd say 15 to 20 hours a week. Keeping current, maintaining contacts, printing off materials, preparing for meetings. This is a prime example of one.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, Don?
Yeah, please.
Where do you print off stuff with your own supplies?
Yes.
So there would have to be a line item for supplies for
Yes.
paper and office supplies, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I believe so. That was what part of it was there. See, I mean, yes, I've got a pretty good home office.
Mm-hmm.
My technology is current. My work is also current. So I have tendency.
Right. I just, being the EMD, you have to consider, having an office, you have to have office supplies. So, that has to be factored into the whole department. You know what I mean? EMD. Yeah.
It should
Thank
be.
you.
I wish I could have an office back in town hall. Granted, I was not in there 40 hours a week, which is a shared office, but just again, the office I did have there, surprisingly enough, did not have any connectivity. I did not have a telephone. I did not have access to IT. I had a desk, but I had a space in town hall where I could use the town hall copier, etc. But now I'm doing everything from home.
So that's why I asked you know, office supplies should have to be, you know, factored into that EMD line as well as a stipend. Yeah.
Yes. And again, I was on the school committee for, I think, 12 years, but I also know the importance of the school for all kinds of things. And again, once this COVID restriction lifts, I mean, I do plan to reach out and meet with everybody in person, Council on Aging, the library, all you name it. So.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there an emergency manual?
Yes, it is called the Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan, CEMP, Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan, CEMP. Every town, every community is supposed to have one, and we have ours. It's being updated presently, so I've got the final copy right now. It has to be signed off by the town government.
So that's been updated to Area 4?
Well, we're actually Area 3.
3, oh.
Surprisingly enough. And we are Department of Public Health Area 1. I mean, that's just, it does not make sense, but yes.
What's the name of it again, please?
Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan, CEMP.
Thank you.
Yep. It is supposed to be updated annually. We now have gone back to a computer version of the CEMP. So ours was just updated 2 weeks ago. We had a meeting in town hall.
Thank you.
Don, what's $3,900 expense code red? What does that mean?
Okay, code red is our emergency notification system, whereby every resident in town, and this is a problem area for me right now, and it has been, I believe, for a while, in that not every resident is signed up for Code Red. I was able to put Code Red in place maybe 7 years ago. The service at that point was paid completely by a grant. But Code Red is when you get that telephone call at home, giving you explicit directions and instructions. The problem with Code Red is that people are now transferring from their home telephone lines, hardwired to cell phones. So it's not clear to me, because I can't get out, is that how we're making sure that all people, including the elderly, of which I'm falling into that category myself now, although I am computer literate, but I know how it gets harder as you get older, that everyone, in my opinion, needs to be on Code Red. And I'm not sure everyone is. So that is something that I plan to work on first chance I have. Right?
Don,
important. Yeah.
Don, I remember when it came up, when Code Red came into our town, because Heather was the town administrator then, and she was the one that brought it into the town. And I get phone calls a lot where people are saying, I don't live in the town anymore, and you need to remove me from the list, or the phone number isn't correct anymore. So like you said, people are switching from home to cell. So, so would you be in charge of that information, where you would be doing the updating, or is that part of?
I'm always very, very leery to say in charge of. I mean, I'm
okay. Well, all right. Sorry.
Very happy to make it so. I feel that because I'm aware of the fact that people, when they change cell phones or get a new cell phone plan, wind up with a brand new telephone number. And I know that it's not the first thing on their mind to notify Code Red. But the fact is, everybody has to notify Code Red of their changes in their telephone numbers. And I know that probably not everyone's doing that. And they should be. And we have to get the word out.
So the $3,900 is our cost to be a part of the program,
Correct.
annual cost.
Annual cost. And remember, when we first got it, it was covered by grant. But the program worked so well, we were one of the first communities to get it, that other communities around us have now joined in as well. So the fact is now we have a good network. So we have Westhampton, Easthampton, as an example, all of us on code red. So we can now link our messages and let people know. It's very, very important. Again, I don't want to get into technical terms here, but should there ever be a plume, a poisonous gas incident? Well, could that happen? Of course. We are very, very close to Barnes Air Force Base. We're very close, actually, to the Mass Pike. Could there be an accident, a rollover with tanker trucks? Absolutely. The air would carry that plume of gas right towards us. So we have to always be ready for those things happening.
Okay, and since December, you've been doing this pro bono, right?
No, paid via stipend.
What's that?
There has been a stipend, I believe it's been part of the CARES Act funding since I think last May. May of 2020. Remember, I came on board December 1st, 2020.
Okay.
I'm saying that, and again, I'm not trying to say for myself, I'm saying for anybody who holds this role. And we have very good people in town that could take over and hold this role. I'm just letting you know ahead of time that I think we've come to the point, 2020, that we cannot expect people to do this gratis any longer. And again, I'm not saying it for myself. I'm saying it in general. As a taxpayer, somebody who came to this town in 1986.
Listen here.
When there's an accident or emergency, who's in charge?
Fire and or police, depending upon the level of the incident, and the emergency management director. Of course, the Board of Selectmen, the town administrator, they all play a role. We all work together. But for an emergency public safety event, fire, police, depending upon the nature and depending upon the level that this thing rises to, emergency management director.
Thank you.
Don,
Yes,
was the EMD before you paid a stipend?
partly in that the CARES Act, I believe, kicked in May. Again,
Okay.
I'm not sure. It could have been April. It could have been prior. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it was definitely May onward. But then I was appointed in December.
Okay.
And all of it, just so you know, just for everybody for history, that was made possible because of the money from the CARES Act. Prior to receiving those funds, it was, as Dawn is describing, a volunteer position, uncompensated.
Correct.
So, I'm sorry, so that stipend didn't hit our bottom line? What I don't understand is if there's a $1,000 stipend you get monthly?
Yes.
Okay, so why isn't it in your budget one?
Well, if I made a mistake, it's because it's the first time I've done it.
Oh, all right. Oh, I didn't know when this came from you or Ed or
It's
what.
very, very possible that I made a mistake. So
I think, Ken, it's because the funds are coming out of the CARES Act, so it would be in the special funds list, not the general fund.
Yeah, that was my question as to whether or not.
They weren't appropriated. They're coming through the CARES Act grant.
All right, but is that carrying forward into FY22?
Right now, it looks like, unless the governor, well, actually the CARES Act is federal, but they right now they would carry through December 31st of 2021 and then end.
That's only 6 months of this next fiscal year.
Correct.
Okay.
Is there anyone else in his department?
Okay, any other questions, thoughts?
Does he have an assistant?
No.
Well, actually, technically, there is a whether you call it assistant or a deputy in case Don is gone and something comes up, and that is the fire chief.
That is true. I thought you meant administrative. No. John Workman. Yes.
Can I ask another question? I'm sorry. What about trainings? Do you have to go for trainings during the year at all to
Yes.
stay
Yes.
as, okay.
Yes.
And do you have to pay for that out of pocket, or would that be included also in a line item?
Most of them are free in the past.
Okay.
They've always been at either Nema Agawam or Birmingham, where for that matter. There's trainings around UMass Amherst.
Already.
Yes, there's an awful lot of trainings, but they've all been on hold. There have been some. As it stands right now, I've had all the trainings that are required and then some.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so,
Can I have a couple of questions?
yeah,
Yeah,
Don,
yeah.
I noticed that you, on the emergency management expense line, there's $750. And you had mentioned that you're basically using your personal funds to buy supplies, et cetera. Are you aware there's $750
Yes,
on that
I'm
line?
aware.
Nothing's been
Yes.
spent to date?
I'm aware, and so far it's been manageable. There are some things that I do plan to purchase. Again, I'm fully aware as a Southampton resident and taxpayer, I don't want to make just expense, I don't want to spend the money if I don't have to right now. I know things are tight. There are some things that I do plan to purchase. I have discussed it briefly with Ed, but not in any detail. But I will probably go through maybe $500-600 of that, right? But truly, that's not enough money to run this department on.
The other thing is on your travel. I understood you were on town business to Boston last week. You're going to put in for your travel, correct? So you get reimbursed for your mileage?
Well, no, and that I don't think I have a travel line right now. So,
Well, why wouldn't that expense line be useful?
because I don't think. Oh, I suppose it could be.
That was my next question.
It would fall under EMD expenses in the current budget.
Yeah, I suppose it would be. Again, there has not been travel this year because of COVID. We've been doing everything on Zoom.
Oh.
Right? But that's about to change. Things are going to go back to normal. And that means there's going to be a lot of in-person meetings, in-person trainings, et cetera, coming up. Right?
I have one follow-on question regarding your office location. You had mentioned your town hall would be ideal. The
Yes.
EOC that's over in the police department, that would be able to function as a temporary office at least for you rather than using your home office?
The Emergency Operations Center is within the police department. They try to keep that building secure. In that I do not have permission to simply walk into that building. All right, so I do not go to that building. But then Town Hall has been locked up as well. So I had that meeting with MEMA. Was it last week, the week before? I'm not sure. It's been run, but I had to get permission from the health department to bring somebody in and have a meeting in our town hall. Granted, this is about to change.
So if the EOC is in a secure building, so say you have to actually stand up the EOC, how does that occur then? People have to be escorted into the EOC?
As it stands right now, that is a secure building, in that I cannot simply walk in there. I have to make a telephone call. I stand outside and I wait. I wait until a police officer arrives, because the dispatcher, in theory, cannot leave his or her post. So I wait until somebody escorts me in. Then they have to be there while I'm there. Then they need to escort me out. That's the way it's presently operated.
Okay.
So having a meeting area over in town hall, I found in the past worked. And that I would have access to town hall during the day. I would have my office upstairs. We could meet across the hall. That did work. Since I have all of your ear, this is just going to be a very, very fast push. I really advocate as a town taxpayer to have a public safety complex. I know how hard it is, as soon as possible. But we truly need to improve that. I mean, I don't know. When I was first on the fire department in 1986, I was appalled with the conditions. Now it's 2021. So that's my push on that. Any other questions?
Are you the only pusher for that?
I don't think so. We used to have a committee. I mean, I was on a committee for years for that. I'm not sure what happened to that committee, but
it's still active.
Yeah, I really feel that it's time. It's really, really time for us to have a public safety complex.
Yeah, the challenge has become actually finding a location for it.
Okay.
Because that would include fire, police, EMS, EMD, perhaps dispatch, and community classrooms, which are important. All right?
Got it.
All righty.
Any other questions of Dawn?
Just on
Comments?
budget, yeah, I have a final question. Don, on your budget 2, where you're asking for additional funds in your expenses line and then the stipend, could you just let us know what's your priorities? 1, 2?
Well, being that this is my town, so I care very, very much about my town. I think that I would say the supplies and equipment and an office space would be number 1. But I'm going to say it to you again, I really don't believe in the year 2021, people are going to be eager to do this again without a stipend. Just a feeling, but I think I'm right.
Can you say that again? The town's going to what?
I just feel that whoever holds this role in the future is going to expect to have a stipend position. Other than that, I said primary number 1 and 2, I would say some equipment, supplies, office space, and town hall. Those are imperative.
Right. Okay, and so how did we arrive at the, I don't want to belabor this, how did we arrive at the $1,000 stipend?
If you're asking me, I do not know.
That was something that the select board had come up with, Ken.
Okay, with the understanding that it was going to be reimbursed by COVID?
Correct, yeah, it was under the understanding that it was basically only for the period of time as long as there was a grant available to cover that cost.
Okay.
Just
so if that, if that grant goes away or that funding goes away, it's not a given that stipend would remain.
Correct. And that in that case, if the select board thought it was important to include a stipend, whether it's $1,000 or another amount after COVID-19 pandemic is over with, then that funding would have to be requested and appropriated through the budget process and approved at town meeting.
Okay. So, and Francine, I think you touched on this, that the $1,000 is going to cover us through the end of the year, in theory.
The calendar year.
But you're going to have an exposure for 6 months. Is that right?
Right, if a position continues, yes.
Right.
Yes, there's only yes. Under CARES, there's only 6 months worth of funding.
Okay, so shouldn't this budget one be $6,000 for EMD stipend?
Well, or you want to build it in for the year and see where we are.
So you're saying
all that's gonna be determined by what we know our revenue is and what we can afford. And
right, and I would say it's a budget 2 item only because of the fact that the directions were to basically level fund except for contractual increases in the budget tab 1, and then request priorities over that in the budget tab 2. But that's my take on it.
Yeah, I would think we'd have at least 6,000 in the budget 1. That's our potential exposure.
Yeah.
I just want to make.
Everybody agree?
Can I make one comment on this?
Yeah.
Fast. This is very similar to the way it used to be when I was an on-call, firefighter for 24 years, whatever it was. You're on call. You don't know what's going to happen. You cannot relax during these bad storms, the wind. Other people could just tuck in, go to bed. You're thinking something could happen. So it's really, I don't think I'm the only one that would operate that way. I consider it a high stress environment for me. I have to have my driveway cleaned off, my truck ready to go, because I can never tell what's going to happen. That's the way this is. It's not a paper pushing thing. You have to be a responder. I was trying to get that point through.
Yeah.
If you take it seriously, I'm not sure everyone does, but I do.
Right.
I take it in the same vein that something serious could happen. It's my responsibility, and I take it that way. So I'm just saying, others probably would do it as well. I'm not sure all would. So that's all.
Well, don't misunderstand that number. The only reason we're putting 6 in there as opposed to 12, we'd still be paying the 12 out. It's just the impact to the town's bottom line for that period beyond the reimbursement of the $6,000 for the next 6 months.
Again, my first priority.
Still getting $12,000.
Well, it's my town. That's my first priority.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments? Questions? I thank you, Don.
Thank you all.
Appreciate you taking the time from
Absolutely.
sunny Florida.
Thank you. I'll be home soon.
Hurry home.
Enjoy. We'll try and keep it warm up here for you.
Yeah, I miss it. Okay. Bye.
Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, comments, issues? Before I forget it, I guess I would have a question about, Ed, do you have any feedback from the chief Chief working on his questionnaire?
No, he's working on it. Some of the questions are easier to answer and drill down than others. So he's gotten some of them done already, and he's working on the others. And if you want, I can ask him if he just send along ones he's already got.
Yeah, just as try to get him in under the wire if we can.
Yeah, but some of them, like the gasoline or the fuel costs, it's the way they're done is the gasoline is done through a gas card, which you can drill down and find out. But the diesel fuel, they actually get that at the highway department, and there hasn't been a regular way set up of reporting of what they've gotten yet. So to date, so we're taking a look at see what we can find out on that to add it together.
Okay. All right. Yeah, if you could touch base with him and let us know so we can get him set up and put him in the finish column.
Sure. Well, like I say, I will ask him to send along the responses to the questions he's already got.
Okay. All right. Any other issues?
Well, I would just like to raise, I know you folks are very concerned about the April 1st deadline. We received, and there's nothing definite yet, but we received word from Boston that our town election can be postponed, and that there is carryover from last year's emergency declaration that our annual town meeting can be delayed as well. So we don't have any firm dates, but if we're looking at pushing the town meeting out first and then the town election after that, because that's how the bylaws are written, that in fact there could be more time for you to have to work on your budget before it was due. Right, Ed?
Yeah, and I can't tell him. I can't. Again, we don't have the firm date yet, but the town moderator who runs the town meeting had made the statement that he didn't feel that it was safe to have either an indoor or outdoor town meeting in the May timeframe, and that it should be pushed out to June.
Right. Which will relieve you folks, give you some wiggle room there that I know you need.
Right. Great. Thank you. I'm sure I speak for all of us.
I can't say how much, but I mean, but
right.
It's there. So.
Okay.
And the town moderator, he's retiring? Did I?
No.
Okay.
So he's running again for another term.
Right.
He was retiring from the Easthampton media board that he was on that he represented.
Oh.
Yep. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Bless you, whoever you are.
Yeah. I guess the only other issue is the meeting tomorrow night, the select board meeting, and it appears at this point that, Rachel, you still plan to attend that?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Rachel and I will be at the meeting. So we will not have a quorum at the meeting, so we will not have to, that's why we haven't posted a special meeting of the committee. I haven't seen any paperwork, any information. Are there any, or do I have to go out to the My Town Government? Okay.
So the agenda's posted.
Right, but the reports of the treasurer, are they posted?
She's doing a verbal report.
Oh, okay. Okay. Anything else? If not, then we've got our next regularly scheduled meeting. Just lost it.
April 12th.
April 12th?
April 12th at 5:30.
Next week.
All right, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, roll call.
Rachel, I.
Barbara, aye.
Mary, I.
And Ken, aye. All right, folks.
Have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Everyone.
Everybody.
Bye.
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 Take care. Bye-bye.